Okay, my friends, we're back today with another video on this Scion IQ. I took the battery out and the battery bracket out so I could show you what's going on down here. Okay, here's a better look at this situation here. You can see that boot is torn away. I took the strut out so I can get a better look at it. And plus I want to get in there and clean all that grease off the chassis. Alright, so of course the next thing, I also pulled out that sensor and cleaned this harness up there, and I'm going to do the same wherever there's grease. And as soon as I get the boot in, we'll take the axle out and change the boots. Okay, let's start taking this thing apart so we can pull that axle out. I'm going to take off all the speed sensor wire, the brake wire, the brake clamp. We're going to move all this stuff out of the way, and then we're going to take the strut, loosen up the strut, and also going to have to take off the stabilizer here, and probably also the tie rod end here. So let's get that done, and then we need to get this out of the way so we could pull that axle out. Okay, this one has to be, it's slipping back. There you go. Okay, take off the stabilizer bar, and we'll get knock this out. Okay, we're going to try this puller, see if we can get this loose. Move that out of the way. Okay, so the way I got this axle loose here is I put the old nut on here and I whacked it a few times with this sledgehammer there, and it loosened it up. So I should be able to pull it out. So let's take off the strut, or loosen this up, get this away from the strut. I don't see how we're going to get this off without taking the ball joint off. So I don't either I don't have the right tools, or I'm doing it the hard way. And then we get that loosened up, and we're going to have to bang that down to get it off. So I reconnected the strut so we don't lose the whole rotor. Okay, so I got the lower ball joint loosened with one of these pitchforks, whatever they call these things. However, I ruined the boot. So you can see right there, the boot is no good. Things got a lot worse now. So now the next thing is to try to get the axle out so I can put the new boots on. In the meantime, let me see, this boot is definitely no good. So that's another project. Okay, here she is. So I have to disassemble this and put the new boots on it. In the meantime, Okay, there's a seal on there. It looks okay. It comes on this side here. All right, let's see if we can get a new boot first before we do anything. In the meantime, let me take this axle, because we're going to have to take this apart. I'm going to put this in the vise. I'm going to have to take off the bearings. In the meantime, we'll put that on there for now. Okay, so let's start to work on this axle. As far as the lower control arm, you can't change just the ball joint or the boot. Now, I ordered some universal boots just to get me up and running, but you have to change the whole lower control arm, and that's what happens when you don't have the right tools. So I didn't know any other way of getting that lower ball joint off the knuckle without this tool that I had, but like I said, it ruined the seal, the boot. So we can put a universal boot on there for now, because I'm sure it's going to take a while to order another lower control arm. Alright, so let's work on this. And also, you have to remember where these particular clamps go, because there's different sizes. Okay, that's one, and this one here. Okay, now this is the outer, and there's a number on here, I believe. Yes, this is 81.2. And this one here, this one is 29. Now, here's the new boot kit right here. Here is the part number 04427744041. It comes with the two boots and all the clamps and some extra parts here. So, this is going to be a little bit of a project to do. Now let's see. These are the two boots. So, this boot goes like this, and this boot goes like that. So this is the inner boot, this is the outer boot. These are the outer clamps. Now let's look at these clamps here. Looks like they gave us a universal sized clamp here. This one here is, that's 81.2, which I believe is the same as this one here, 81.2. So that's the outer. These are universal. And here's the seal, the lubricant. And here are the clamps. They gave us these universal clamps here. Now this is a 30, and then this one here is a 29, and I believe this is 29. Okay, so these two clamps are for the outer seal boot, and this clamp, these three, there's two extra clamps here. There's this clamp here, there's another clamp here, and they seem like these are adjustable clamps. And there's also a couple of lock rings in here. right there. So we'll figure out which seal goes, which lubricant goes where, and then we have to get this off. Okay, so we have to pull off this. Okay, here is. This is going to be a very dirty job. All right, let me figure out what we're doing next here. Okay, so now we're going to take off the inner boot and pull this assembly out here. Still some fluid in there, but now we have to take off this set of bearings here to so that we can get the new boot on this side. It's not an easy job, but it's very doable, and I'll tell you the truth, it's not the first time I'm doing this. So, and the way this comes off, I believe there's a clip, like this little snap ring in there. There it is right there. There's a little snap ring right there. Okay, let's work on that. Okay, so you have to get this little snap ring out of here. There's a special tool that you can use to expand that clip, which is like this, but mine is broken. I'm missing some pieces to that, so I use a couple of these little picks to get this thing up. They give you a new one. There's a new one right there, so I don't have to worry about damaging it. But you got to get this off. Okay, so here it is. It just comes right off. I'm going to put that right there, and we can take our boots off. It's a very messy, dirty job. So make sure you wear gloves. So now this side down here, get this loose. There's a little indentation on the shaft that boot slips into. You can see it right here. It's like a groove, so it sits in the right position. So I just want to get this started. Okay, so that's that, and there is the boot, and all the dirty grease that goes with it. No, like I said, it's a dirty job. All right, so now I'm trying to figure out if this feels all right. Okay, that's that. So next, we're going to start putting the new boots on. I'm going to give this a little cleanup first, at least around here, and then we'll come back and put the new boots on. Okay, so we are about ready to put the new boot on. This is the outer boot. This is the new one. Now, it's not marked, but what's very peculiar is that they give you two containers here of lubricant, and they have different part numbers on them. This is 509, this is 302. It doesn't say which one's for which, inner or outer. There's nothing on the instruction sheets that say what it's for. So what do we do? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo? I'm not sure. They look like the same to me. Thickness and everything like that. So this one has maybe a little bit more. So I'm assuming that which seal would hold the most. Now this looks like a bigger seal to me, so I'm going to put the bigger container in the outer boot like that. So I'm going to put this on first like this. And that's going to go like that. Then we're going to clamp it, but we want to fill it with grease. We'll flip it over, and fill it with grease. Now, this clamp right here, oops, this one goes on first, right? That's going to go on the outer, like so, and then this one's going to go on for this section. So let me work this in and see, just like that. And we want to get this over. Just want to make sure everything fits right here before I put the grease in. There's a little groove down here. Well, let me try something first. Let's pull this off. Put this on first, like this, then put this on. Then that snaps in just like that. You hear it click in place. And we take this, and then this gets put on like this. Now there's a special tool that you can buy, which I bought just to have it. Okay, so here's the tool, and it's made specifically for these fittings. This tool was about 20 bucks on Amazon. So let's do the top one first. Don't forget, this is the outer bearing, the outer boot. So this has a couple of stoppers in it, so you can't over tighten it. Now I have a special tool just made for these types of squeeze clamps that I use in plumbing, but I bought this one just in case. Okay, so got our tool on there. We're on the clamp. The clamp is in the groove, 13 millimeter socket. And there you are. It's on. Okay, now let's get ready to put the grease in. Okay, so we're going to force all this grease in here. Okay, that looks like it's on right. Now we just have to tighten up this clamp. Make sure that this little, it's in the groove. Okay, that looks okay. We're going to put this right on that. Make sure you seat it properly. There's little grooves where that band sits right in between those grooves there. Okay, one down, one to go. Okay, so that's the outer boot. Okay. So now you got to put on the inner boot. And this is the inner boot. This is going to go on like this. And so it fits into that groove. And then we're going to put our gears on, or I should say our bearings. Just like that. And then we have to put in our, this goes in like this. Once we put that clip in there. So here is the new clip. And unfortunately I don't have the right tool. We'll see if I can get this in there. It's going to fit in there like that. Okay, moving right along here now. Before you put this inner boot in, you need to put this clamp on the shaft like that. And this is a little bit of a different tool you need to squeeze this. I don't have it. I'm going to have to improvise. Alright, so that goes on like that, and then we need to put the snap ring in there. Right into that groove right there. Now, you're going to make sure that that is in the groove. See that snapped in? And also we can turn it. There you go. That's in. So now we have to fill this boot up with the grease. And as I said before, they give you two grease. One's bigger than the other, and I'm assuming that the larger tube goes in the bigger boot. That's my side of it. So that's what I think. Then we also have this new clamp here. This is going to go on like this. I haven't seen these type of clamps, but we'll figure out how to get that on once we get the boot on. So we'll leave that down here. So that's on. Now squeeze all this fluid out into the boot. And there you go. Now these have these little cutouts here. Goes like this. There you go. So now we just have to figure out how we're going to tighten up these clamps. So let me work on this and we'll come back. Okay, so there's also a C-clip here. They give you a new one, so we'll put that one in there. Okay, that's the old one. Here's the new one. Just like that. And that locks the axle in on that side. Okay, I had a problem with this clamp, both of these clamps. For some reason or other, when I squeezed it, it just wouldn't catch. So I put these on temporarily, these hose clamps. I ordered new clamps, these 2 clamps. They're coming tomorrow. But in the meantime, it's going to allow me, at least I can start putting this thing back together. And so this way tomorrow, when we get the clamps, we can just change them right in the car. All right, let's move on. All right, so I got the axle positioned here. Yep, pushed it all the way in. It's in. All right, now we got to get it back on. And I'm just going to get a wire brush and clean up that area a little bit. Okay, now let's try to get this axle in here. So one thing I made a mistake on is I didn't have to take the lower control arm off. I could have just taken off the rotor and the caliper, and it would have given me enough room to get that axle out of there. But you live and you learn. So I made a mistake. So my mistake is your gain. Okay. Now let's just get an axle nut here just to hold that in place. This is the old one. I got a new one though. So here's the lower control arm right here, and you can see I did not have to take that off, but when I used the fork to split it, I ruined the boot. So I bought these universal boots, which I'm going to put on here temporarily, and just to hold the grease in there. And I ordered a new lower control arm, but just so that I can get this thing back together and roll it out of the garage, because I've got to get some other cars in here. So that's what we're doing. Stand by. Okay, so the lower control arm, I don't know how difficult it is to change it. I've never changed it before, but we're learning. That's what the AL at the end of the name of this channel stands for. Scion IQ-AL. Always learning. Universal ball joint boots. These are made for a snap ring or something to go over it. Oh, there is a ring on there. Oh, son of a gun. That's good. And there it is. Okay. Oh, not bad. Okay, so now let's look at this boot. Yeah, that'll fit on there, and we'll put that ring back on there, and that could be a permanent fix. So I may not have to change the lower control arm after all, but I ordered it just to have it, just in case. But this is good. So now we're going to take some of the grease from the axle and squeeze it into here. Just keep that ball joint lubricated. Very good. Make sure when you do this job, you have a lot of rags, old rags. I've thrown away so many of these rags working on this. So here's the boot. Like I said, it comes in a package. There's 20 of them in there or something. And well, I got them on Amazon for about 10, 11 bucks. It fits over there nicely. Now if we can just get the boot over that ridge. Here it is. Let's check it out. Okay, got it on. Got that ring on there. The boot's not damaged. Everything looks good. I used this flathead screwdriver to kind of work that way in there. So right now, this is a permanent fix because we got grease in there and we got the boot, and when we put the ball joint on, the nut, that's going to pull that tight and keep it tight. So we could basically leave that on there, but we'll have the control arm just in case. Alright, so let's continue. Okay, we got that started. When we got the ball joint back on, the lower control arm, so now we need to put that little locking pin in there. Okay, so I got that clip in there. So that doesn't come out. Like that. So it fits in the groove. That locks it in. There's our ball joint boot. Repacked with grease. We're putting everything else back together now, and hopefully we'll get this thing finished up. Now I have to hook up the brake line and the speed sensor and get that done. Okay, everything's hooked back up. I just have to I have to put a new axle nut on here, torque it to 159 foot-pounds. I'm checking all my cables, my brake lines, my speed sensor. Everything's in and tightened. All the nuts are tightened, safety pins are in there. Ball joints in. New boot, ready to go. Just going to double check and make sure everything's tight. Torque on the new nut. Okay, here we go, 159 foot-pounds. Okay. Now, what we're going to do now is put a little dimple in that axle nut so it doesn't come loose. That's good. All right, my friends, that's it. I'm going to clean up a little bit, put the wheels and tires back on, and take it out for a test ride. Tomorrow we'll get the new clamps and we'll put it on, and that should be it. I hope this video was helpful, and I hope you learned something, because I did. See you later. Okay, a couple of things before we end this video I want to point out. I bought these boot kit off of Amazon for about 10 bucks. There's, I think, 20 in here or something, all different sizes. A good thing to have around the shop. One thing I learned was I didn't really have to disconnect the lower ball joint to get that axle out. Live and learn, right? But anyway, this saved me, because now I don't have to change the lower control arm. I can send it back. And these clamps that I bought off of Amazon, there's 5 sets in here. I don't know, they're 10 bucks or something like that. These clamps, an outer and an inner, you adjust it to the size you want, and then you crimp it. And I like these much better. I think they're much stronger. Because with the other clamps that come with the factory boots, you need a special tool to pull that band tight, and then it catches onto a hook or something, and it just didn't work for me. So anyway, I got these. I'm going to put these on the boot. But in the meantime, I got the car back together. They took it for a ride. It's fine, but I'm getting a little bit of a noise in the outer wheel bearing. And I didn't have that noise before. So it sounds like the rotor is hitting the backing plate, but I took it apart again and I checked it, and that wasn't it. So I'm going to probably have to change the axle, knowing the way I am, and any kind of little bit of noise would freak me out. So I'll be doing that. That'll be a future video. But one of the other things I wanted to say is that the reason why I found out that my boot was leaking was I took my wheels off, tires off, so I could adjust the shocks. I was making some adjustments in my suspension, and I noticed that there was grease all over the place. I looked at the boot. As you saw in the video, the boot was torn, and the reason why it tore is because originally it had a little bit of a leak there, and I put a hose clamp on there, a regular hose clamp that you would put on a radiator hose. But those clamps are wider than these clamps. If you notice your boots, they have really a channel where this clamp, this band clamp, fits right inside that valley, so that when you tighten it up, it doesn't cut the boot. The hose clamp being wider, as that boot was turning around and around and around all the time, it cut the boot off, and so more fluid leaked out. So you live and you learn. You find these things out, but don't use hose clamps on those boots. And I'm not really quite sure about these two-piece boots that you can buy. I like to do the things right, the way the factory is. So our next, one of our next projects will be to replace that axle. And I will stand by for my channel because I've got 3 Scions, and I'm always doing some work on it. I've got another Scion right now I'm doing some major work on. So we'll be doing upcoming videos. We'll be doing pulling the engine out, rebuilding the engine, and some other issues, suspension issues and things like that. So I hope you learned something, because I did. I'll see you on the next video.